It is sad in life that we as a people care more about the narrative than we do about the facts. When you look at the election results that just passed, or in any country, the conservatives tried to win based on the facts. The liberals could care less about the facts. They care more about feelings and narrative. Both are important as long as they are truthful. When talking about Isaiah 7 and the virgin birth, Christians are accused of failing to understand the context, the narrative. And the context rebuttal of the rabbis is done so well that our thought leaders have capitulated and come up with some pretty embarrassing theologies. But since an Alma is always a virgin in the Bible, then that is a context rebuttal to the rabbi's context rebuttal. But our thought leaders, for the most part, have abandoned that point and come up with some pretty fanciful fantasies about what they think an Alma is. But it is always a virgin. And I have many videos looking at the many nuances of the word, given the many rabbinical arguments that I will post over my shoulder. So who has the narrative and who has the facts? Who is imposing a view on Tanakh that does not comport to Tanakh? Who has built up the straw man? Because any view that does not comport to Tanakh, that has been imposed on Tanakh, is a straw man. It's very important as we begin this topic that we talk about biases. Yes, biases, mine and yours. And a particular bias called confirmation bias. It affects us all, but this is what the rabbis accuse the Christian world of when they read Isaiah 7. They skip ahead to Isaiah 7:14 because of what they read in Matthew 1:23. Behold, a virgin will conceive and give birth to a son, and they shall call his name Emmanuel, which translates means God with us, blah, blah, blah. What the rabbis are arguing is that you already have a preconceived idea of what you are already looking for. So you essentially are just confirming your already determined bias. And when you look at the proper context of Isaiah 7, you'll realize that the Apostle Matthew, if that is who wrote the book of Matthew, is just stupid and does not know how to interpret Tanakh because the context does not support his conclusion. Or maybe it's a dual prophecy. How ridiculous. And to quote Rabbi Singer in his article on Outreach Judaism, what possible comfort and assurance would Ahaz, who was surrounded by two overwhelming military enemies, have found in the birth of a child 7 centuries later? Case closed, you pagan worshiper. Confirmation bias is defined this way: the tendency to interpret new evidence as confirming one's existing beliefs or theories. It's important in apologetics not to just surround yourselves with people who agree with you, but also with people that confront your own biases. Oftentimes, we only want to be around people who are like-minded. I mean, it feels great, doesn't it? But none of us are infallible, and you need to be sharpened as much as possible, and that means exposing yourselves as much as possible to people who view the Bible differently than you have historically looked at it. Because in the end, it should give you great confidence to resolve their biases or have your own chat. Having said that, and I say this all the time, okay, I sound like a broken record. When you do not have the answer, you stand in a lack of knowledge until God provides you with the answer, if he chooses to provide you with the answer at all. This is what faith is all about, and the commandment to have faith is given early in Genesis chapter 2. The greatest way the rabbis try to expose us as having confirmation bias on Isaiah 7 is with this very question that I have been posting on Twitter and in my community tab. And it was a well thought out and framed question. that I believe has gone unanswered. You don't have to have the answer at all. You really don't. I mean, you can just live by faith. According to Rabbi Singer, he has converted many Christians to Judaism by this simple method of asking questions that cannot be answered, or by putting Christians in faith. It's ironic that he makes Christians practice their religion by putting them in faith, and then some leave their religion. And if you are one of those ex-Christians, I am glad that you are listening. And please comment in the comments section if I have put you in faith about practicing Judaism, and just like you left Christianity because you didn't have faith, are you now going to leave Judaism because you don't have faith either, or are you going to play the hypocrite? You have to be fair, don't you? It's not easy being a yo-yo going back and forth, left and right. The false frame we will be completely rebutting begins with the question that I said earlier by the incredible brained Rabbi Singer. What possible comfort and assurance would Ahaz, who was surrounded by two, I think he means TWO, overwhelming enemies, have found in the birth of a child 7 centuries later? For those of you that are new to the channel, it would be a good idea for you to watch a couple of videos first before you get lost in the wheat field on this one. But for everybody else who is familiar with rabbinical arguments of Isaiah 7, we'll proceed forward. This is an important question to answer, unless you just don't care because you have faith. But what if this question is a lie? A question asked by someone who just does not understand what is going on in this chapter. Yeah, it's kind of funny. You're accusing us of not understanding the context when you don't understand the context. Judge not, lest thou be judged, Rabbi. Or a question asked for the sole purpose, if he really does know what's going on, of confusing the listener. It seems that the Christian response to this question has completely confused me. Has it confused you? Let's untwist this knot. Ahaz, the wicked king, has some issues with the plan of being replaced by a person known as Tovia, a puppet king, who Rezin and Pekah plan to install after they defeat him in Isaiah chapter 7. He's a bit paranoid, and for good reason, because he doesn't believe that he has the military might to take these two kings on. He loves being king. He just loves it. He loves ruling. His lack of belief in his capabilities, militarily speaking, is communicated clearly in 2 Kings 16. But to summarize these 2 chapters, from the context of Ahaz, the king was placed in a situation where only God could give him the victory. Much like many of you who left Christianity because the rabbis with their unanswerable questions, God placed you in a situation where only he could give you the victory. And like Ahaz ran to another religion, you ran to another religion. He's a lot like you, so you should be able to relate really well to what's going on here. There's a belief by some that I agree with that a person cannot see past the conceit and arrogance of a well-formed argument. Here's the incredible brain rabbi's well-formed argument. Like I said earlier, what possible comfort and assurance would Ahaz, who was surrounded by 2 TWO, overwhelming military enemies, have found in the birth of a child 7 centuries later? The conceit and the arrogance will also become obvious in the comments section, and please do leave comments and questions. But let's answer this question with a question, Rabbi, that you can answer yourself if you want on your channel. I mean, you don't even have to say my name, but since you probably won't, I'll answer it for you. Why do you think God was trying to comfort King Ahaz in the first place? Okay, hold up. What do I mean? And who do I think I am to question the accepted narrative in Judaism? Let me explain, Rabbi. If you don't mind, there is a parallel. You know those messed up parables that Jesus, sure, for those who are going to accuse me of using the wrong name, always accused you Pharisees of not understanding. Between Isaiah 7:20 and 2 Kings 16:7 and 8, Ahaz sent messengers to Tiglath-Pileser, king of Assyria, saying, I am your servant and your son. Come and save me from the hand of the king of Aram and from the hand of the king of Israel, who are rising up against me. And Ahaz took silver and gold that was found in the house of the Lord and the treasuries of the king's house, and sent a gift to the king of Assyria. So the king of Assyria listened to him. Essentially, Ahaz hires the king of Assyria. If you don't understand that, that's why I added the commentary, beginning with essentially. I'm trying to keep this simple so that your Pharisaic, incredible brain can keep up with me, Rabbi. Wow, it's just an incredible brain you have. Before Isaiah asked Ahaz to ask for a sign, or as Ahaz puts it, test the Lord, Ahaz, ironically, was the one being tested. Still following, Rabbi? We know Isaiah was aware that this payment had already been made because he makes this explicit in verse 20 of Isaiah 7. On that day, the Lord will shave with a razor higher from the regions beyond the Euphrates, that is, with the king of Assyria, the head and the hair and the legs, and will also remove the beard. By verse 11, Ahaz had already hired the king of Assyria. Are you still following me? So Isaiah, after giving him time to think, or talking to him at a completely different time after giving him time to think, that would be verse 10, tries to comfort him. I totally agree. But once Ahaz rebukes Isaiah, the comforting is over. And we know that the comforting is over, because how the hell is this verse a comforting verse? The Lord will bring on you and your people and your father's house such days as not have come since the days that Ephraim separated from Judah. That's comforting, isn't it? The days of the king of Assyria. Tell me, Rabbi, was Isaiah trying to comfort Ahaz in verse 17? Let's read verse 20. On that day the Lord will shave with a razor hired from the regions beyond the Euphrates, that is the king of Assyria, the head, the hair, and the legs, and will also remove the beard. Tell me again, Rabbi, was Isaiah trying to comfort Ahaz? The implication here is that Judah will be stripped naked, publicly, and shaved from head to toe, even their very private parts. Is that comforting, Rabbi? Is that what you think comforting language is? Do you see, yet follower of Rabbi Tovia Singer, the stupidity you have to believe in order to follow this guy? The Assyrians were known as the lords of torture. They invented crucifixion. They loved impaling their victims in two places, the ribs and the anus. Eventually, the poles would dig slowly into their victims, killing them. They were known to flay the skin off the peoples they conquered and make conquered peoples dig up their ancestors and grind their bones. How comforting, isn't it? They were so brutal that they made Hitler look like a choir boy. And historical records indicate that their soldiers were so brutal that they had developed documented PTSD. Have I lost you already? Or are you still watching? You are not an idiot. You know verses 17 to 20 of Isaiah 7 were never meant to comfort Ahaz, correct? No fake Christian or rabbinical theologian can argue with that. Now, the only question that needs to be answered is, when did Isaiah stop the use of the comforting language with Ahaz? And it was when Ahaz rebuked him. And you might be thinking, but wait, how did Ahaz rebuke Isaiah? And it is simple. Then the Lord spoke again to Ahaz, saying, Ask for a sign for yourself from the Lord your God. Make it as deep as Sheol or as high as heaven. But Ahaz said, I will not ask, nor will I test the Lord. That's how I hear it. Could you imagine the prophet Isaiah coming to you because of your unbelief, doubts, and trust in a foreign power? Kind of sounds like Benjamin Netanyahu. He comes to you to comfort you. He knows that you have already paid for the help of the king of Assyria. He knows 2 Kings 16 has already taken place, and Isaiah knows the suffering that Judah was going to have to go through at the hands of the Assyrians if Ahaz didn't put his faith in God's word spoken through by him. He had already seen that suffering. At this point in the conversation, what Isaiah had known was all hidden from Ahaz. Ahaz had no idea he was the one being tested. Isaiah asked Ahaz to ask for a sign to confirm his words to him. And after the confirmation, he'd know that God was with us. God is with us, Emmanuel. That is very important. Ahaz's refusal to ask for a sign puts Isaiah in the position of the tempter. It is an accusation of bad faith that Isaiah is asking him to do something that is a sin against God. I will not ask, nor will I put the Lord to the test. I don't know why learned people believe that this was pious. To question a prophet's intent and to accuse him of bad faith. And if it was just a misunderstanding that Ahaz had, Isaiah would have explained that to him. We are now done with the comforting language. Once you do not trust the benevolence of God's prophets, how can you be saved, O Christian? Ahaz does not believe that God is with us, but that Assyria is with us. That's why the Emmanuel prophecy was so important. It was a counter-rebuke to Ahaz's hiring of the king of Assyria. Again, Isaiah already knows what's going on in the background of 2 Kings 16 by writing Isaiah 17 to 20. Also, in this passage, the paranoid king is told that a virgin will give birth to a child. The implication is that the child will be the new king of Judah. Now just think of this. How is that supposed to comfort a paranoid king who is trying to kill his enemies for replacing him as king? Not only that, but here's the kicker. Isaiah leaves the time of the child's birth ambiguous. So the wicked king and the wicked rabbis of Israel could interpret the birth as imminent to enhance his uncomforting language. Let me say that a different way. Ahaz would have accepted Rabbi Singer's conclusion that the child's birth was imminent, and only the wicked could interpret it that way. You cannot comfort a king who was trying to kill people who were trying to dethrone him as king with the ambiguous announcement of the birth of a king who would dethrone him. We are talking about a king who was a lot more unstable than Herod the Great, who killed his own sons. This king, the king of heaven, is further identified through Isaiah 9 and 11, which contains some of the most well-known Messianic prophecies in the Bible. And I believe that they were spoken, unfortunately, when Ahaz was no longer present. Here's but a taste. For a child will be born to us, a son will be given to us, and the government will rest on his shoulders. And his name will be called Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, Eternal Father, Prince of Peace. There will be no end to the increase of his government or of peace on the throne of David and over his kingdom, to establish it and to uphold it with justice and righteousness then and forevermore. The zeal of the Lord's armies will accomplish this. Can you see past the conceit and the arrogance of this well-formed argument. Please share this on your social media, like, comment, and subscribe.